Chapter 6. And the children of Israel did evil in the eyes of Yahuwah, and Yahuwah gave them into the hand of Midian for 7 years. And the hand of Midian was strong against Israel, and before the faces of the Midianites the children of Israel made for themselves the refugees which are in the mountains, and the caves, and the strongholds. And it came to be, whenever Israel had sown, that Midian would come up, and Amalek and the people of the east would come up against them, and encamp against them, and destroy the increase of the soil as far as Azah, and leave no food in Israel, neither for sheep, nor ox, nor donkey. For they came up with their livestock and their tents, coming in as numerous as locusts, and they and their camels were without number, and they came into the land to destroy it. Thus Israel was brought very low because of Midian, and the children of Israel cried out to Yahuwah. And it came to be, when the children of Israel cried out to Yahuwah because of Midian, that Yahuwah sent a prophet to the children of Israel, who said to them, Thus said Yahuwah Elohim of Israel, I have brought you up from Mitzrayim, and I have brought you out of the house of bondage, and I delivered you out of the hand of the Mitzrites, and out of the hand of all your oppressors, and drove them out before you, and gave you their land. And I said to you, I am Yahuwah your Elohim. Do not fear the mighty ones of the Amorites, in whose land you dwell, and you have not obeyed my voice. And the messenger of Yahuwah came and sat under the terebinth tree, which was in Ophrah, which belonged to Joash the Abiezrite, while his son Gideon threshed wheat in the winepress, to hide it from the eyes of the Midianites. And the messenger of Yahuwah appeared to him and said to him, Yahuwah is with you, you mighty brave one. And Gideon said to him, O my master, if Yahuwah is with us, why has all this come upon us? And where are all his wonders which our fathers related to us, saying, Did not Yahuwah bring us up from Mitzrayim? But now Yahuwah has left us and given us into the hands of Midian. And Yahuwah turned to him and said, Go in this strength of yours, and you shall save Israel from the hand of the Midianites. Have I not sent you? And he said to him, O Yahuwah, with what do I save Israel? See, my clan is the weakest in Manasseh, and I am the least in my father's house. And Yahuwah said to him, Because I am with you, you shall strike the Midianites as one man. And he said to him, Please, if I have found favor in your eyes, then show me a sign that it is you who are speaking with me. Please do not move away from here until I come to you and bring out my offering and set it before you. And he said, I shall stay until you return. And Gideon went in and prepared a young goat and unleavened bread from an ephah of flour. The meat he put in a basket, and he put the broth in a pot. And he brought them out to him under the terebinth tree and presented it. And the messenger of Yahuwah of Elohim said to him, Take the meat and unleavened bread, and lay them on this rock, and pour out the broth. And he did so. And the messenger of Yahuwah put forth the end of the staff that was in his hand, and touched the meat and the unleavened bread. And fire went up out of the rock, and consumed the meat and unleavened bread. And the messenger of Yahuwah went from his sight. And when Gideon saw that he was a messenger of Yahuwah, Gideon said, O Master Yahuwah, for I have seen a messenger of Yahuwah face to face. And Yahuwah said to him, Peace be with you, do not fear, you do not die. And Gideon built a slaughter place there to Yahuwah, and called it Yahuwah Shalom. To this day it's still in Ophrah of the Abiezrites. And the same night it came to be that Yahuwah said to him, Take the young bull of your father, and the second bull of 7 years old, and you shall throw down the slaughter place of Baal that your father has, and cut down the Asherah that is beside it. And you shall build a slaughter place to Yahuwah your Elohim on top of this rock in an orderly way, and shall take the second bull and offer an ascending offering with the wood of the image which you cut down. And Gideon took 10 men from among his servants, and did as Yahuwah had said to him. And it came to be, because he feared his father's household and the men of the city too much to do it by day, that he did it by night. And the men of the city arose early in the morning, and saw the slaughter place of Baal was broken down, and the Asherah that was beside it had been cut down, and the second bull was being offered on the slaughter place which was built. And they said to each other, Who has done this deed? And when they had inquired and asked, they said, Gideon son of Joash has done this deed. And the men of the city said to Joash, Bring out your son, so that he dies, for he has broken down the slaughter place of Baal, and because he has cut down the Asherah that was beside it. And Joash said to all who stood against him, Would you plead for Baal? Would you save him? Let the one who would plead for him be put to death by morning. If he is a mighty one, let him plead for himself, because his slaughter place has been broken down. So that day he called him Yerubbaal, saying, Let Baal plead against him because he has broken down his slaughter place. Now all Midian and Amalek and the people of the east were gathered together, and they passed over and encamped in the valley of Israel. Then the spirit of Yahuwah came upon Gideon, and he blew the shofar, and the Abiezrites gathered behind him. And he sent messengers throughout all Manasseh, who also gathered behind him. And he sent messengers to Asher, and to Zebulun, and to Naphtali, and they came up to meet them. And Gideon said to Elohim, If you are saving Israel by my hand, as you have said, see, I am placing a fleece of wool on the threshing floor. If there is dew only on the fleece, and it is dry on all the ground, then I shall know that you are saving Israel by my hand, as you have said. And it was so, and he arose early the next morning, and pressed the fleece. A wrung dew out of the fleece, to fill a bowl of water. And Gideon said to Elohim, Do not be displeased with me, and let me speak only this time. Please let me try only this time with the fleece. Please let it be dry only on the fleece, and let there be dew on all the ground. And Elohim did so that night. It was dry on the fleece only, but there was dew on all the ground. Chapter 7. And Jerubbaal, that is Gideon, and all the people who were with him rose up early and encamped by the fountain of Harod, so that the camp of Midian was on the north side of them by the hill of Moreh in the valley. And Yahuwah said to Gideon, The people who are with you are too many for me to give Midian into their hand, lest Israel boast against me, saying, My own hand has saved me. And now proclaim in the hearing of the people, saying, Whoever is afraid and trembling, let him turn back, and leave Mount Gilead. And 22,000 of the people turned back, while 10,000 remained. And Yahuwah said to Gideon, The people are still too many. Bring them down to the water, and let me prove them for you there. And it shall be that of whom I say to you, This one goes with you, let him go with you. And whomever I say to you, This one does not go with you, let him not go. So he brought the people down to the water. And Yahuwah said to Gideon, Everyone who laps the water with his tongue as a dog laps, separate him from everyone who bows down on his knees to drink. And the number of those who lapped, putting their hand to their mouth, was 300 men, and all the rest of the people bowed down on their knees to drink water. And Yahuwah said to Gideon, By the 300 men who lapped I save you, and shall give Midian into your hand. Let all the other people go, each to his place. And the people took food in their shofrot in their hands. And he sent away all the rest of Israel, each to his tent, but held on to those 300 men. Now the camp of Midian was below him in the valley. And it came to be on that night that Yahuwah said to him, Arise, go down against the camp, for I have given it into your hand. But if you are afraid to go down, you and Purar, your servant, to the camp. And you shall hear what they say, and after that let your hands be strengthened, and you shall go down against the camp. So he went down with Purar, his servant, to the edge of the formation of fives who were in the camp. And Midian and Amalek and all the people of the east were lying in the valley as many as locusts, and their camels were as numerous as the sand by the seashore. And Gideon came, and see, a man was relating a dream to his companion, and said, See, I had a dream, and see, a loaf of barley bread tumbled into the camp of Midian, and it came to a tent and struck it so that it fell and overturned, and the tent fell down. And his companion answered and said, This is none other than the sword of Gideon, son of Joash, a man of Israel. Elohim has given Midian and all the camp into his hand. And it came to be, when Gideon heard this dream related and its interpretation, that he bowed himself down, and he returned to the camp of Israel and said, Arise, for Yahuwah has given the camp of Midian into your hand. And he divided the 300 men into 3 companies, and he put shofrot into the hands of all of them, with empty jars and torches inside the jars. And he said to them, Watch me and do likewise, and see, when I come to the edge of the camp, do as I do. And I shall blow the shofar, and I and all those with me, then you shall also blow the shofar round about all the camp, and say, For Yahuwah and for Gideon. And Gideon and the 100 men who were with him came to the edge of the camp at the beginning of the middle watch, as they had but newly posted the watch. And they blew the shofar and broke the jars that were in their hands. And the 3 companies blew the shofar and broke the jars, and held the torches in their left hands, and the shofar in their right hands for blowing. And they cried, A sword for Yahuwah and a sword for Gideon. And each stood in his place round about the camp. And all the enemy ran and cried out and fled. And the 300 blew the shofar out, and Yahuwah set the sword of each one against the other throughout all the camp. And the army fled to Beth Shittah towards Sererah, as far as the border of Abel Mecholah by Tabith. And the men of Israel were called from Naphtali, and from Asher, and from all Manasseh, and pursued Midian. Then Gideon sent messengers throughout all the mountains of Ephraim, saying, Come down to meet Midian, and capture from them the watering places as far as Beth Barah and the Yarden. So all the men of Ephraim were called and captured the watering places as far as Beth Barah and the Yarden. And they captured 2 princes of Midian, Oreb and Zeeb, and killed Oreb at the rock of Oreb, and Zeeb they killed at the winepress of Zeeb, while they pursued Midian. And they brought the heads of Oreb and Zeeb to Gideon beyond the Yarden. Chapter 8. And the men of Ephraim said to him, What is this you have done to us by not calling us when you went to fight with Midian? And they contended with him sharply. And he said to them, What have I done as compared with you? Are the gleanings of Ephraim not better than the grape harvest of Abiezer? Elohim has given into your hands the princes of Midian, Oreb and Zeeb, and what I was able to do as compared with you. And when he had said that, their rage toward him subsided. And Gideon and the 300 men who were with him came to the Yarden, passing over, weary yet pursuing. And he said to the men of Succoth, Please give loaves of bread to the people who follow me, for they are weary. And I am pursuing Zebah and Salmunna, sovereigns of Midian. But the leaders of Succoth said, Are the hands of Zebah and Salmunna now in your hand, that we should give bread to your army? And Gideon said, Because of this, when Yahuwah has given Zebah and Salmunna into my hand, I shall tear your flesh with the thorns of the wilderness and with briars. And he went up from there to Penuel, and spoke to them in the same way. And the men of Penuel answered him, as the men of Succoth had answered him. So he spoke also to the men of Penuel, saying, When I come back in peace, I shall break down this tower. And Zebah and Salmunna were at Karkor, and their armies with them, about 15,000 men, all who were left of all the army of all the people of the east. Now those who had already fallen were 120,000 men, who drew the sword. And Gideon went up by the way of those who dwell in tents on the east of Nobach and Yogbaah. And he struck the camp while the camp was at ease. And Zebah and Salmunna fled, and he pursued them, and captured the 2 sovereigns of Midian, Zebah and Salmunna, and shuttered the entire army. And Gideon son of Joash returned from battle from the ascent of Heres, and captured a youth of the men of Succoth, and questioned him. So the youth wrote down for him the leaders of Succoth and its elders, 77 men. And he came to the men of Succoth, and said, See, Zebah and Salmunna, about whom you taunted me, saying, Are the hands of Zebah and Salmunna now in your hand, that we should give bread to your army, to your men who are weary? And he took the elders of the city, and thorns of the wilderness, and briars, and with them he taught the men of Succoth a lesson. And he broke down the tower of Penuel, and killed the men of the city. And he said to Zebah and Salmunna, How were the men whom you killed at Tabor? So they answered, They were like you, each one looked like a son of a sovereign. And he said, They were my brothers, and the sons of my mother. As Yahuwah lives, if you had let them live, I would not kill you. And he said to Yether his firstborn, Rise, kill them. But the youth would not draw his sword, for he was afraid, because he was still a youth. Then Zebah and Salmunna said, Rise yourself, and fall on us. For as a man is, so is his might. So Gideon arose and killed Zebah and Salmunna, and took the crescent ornaments which were on their camels' necks. So the men of Israel said to Gideon, Rule over us, both you and your son, also your son's son, for you have saved us from the hand of Midian. But Gideon said to them, I do not rule over you, nor does my son rule over you. Yahuwah does rule over you. And Gideon said to them, I have a request to make of you, that each of you give me the ring from his spoil, for they had rings of gold, because they were Ishmaelites. And they said, We shall certainly give them. And they spread out a garment, and each man threw into it the ring from his spoil. And the weight of the gold rings that he requested was 1,700 pieces of gold, besides the crescent ornaments, and the pendants, and purple robes, which were on the sovereigns of Midian, and besides the chains that were around their camels' necks. And Gideon made it into a shoulder garment, and set it up in his city Ophrah. And all Israel went whoring after it there. And it became a snare to Gideon and to his house. Thus Midian was humbled before the children of Israel, and they lifted their heads no more. And the land had rest for 40 years in the days of Gideon. And Jerubbaal, son of Joash, went and dwelt in his own house. And Gideon had 70 sons, who were his own offspring, for he had many wives. And his concubine, who was in Shechem, also bore him a son, and he gave him the name Abimelech. And Gideon, son of Joash, died at a good old age, and was buried in the burial site of Joash his father, in Ophrah of the Abiezrites. And it came to be, when Gideon was dead, that the children of Israel again went whoring after the Baals, and made Baal-berith their mighty one. Thus the children of Israel did not remember Yahuwah their Elohim, who had delivered them from the hands of all their enemies round about, nor did they show loving commitment to the house of Jerubbaal, Gideon, according to all the good which he did for Israel. Chapter 9. And Abimelech, son of Jerubbaal, went to Shechem to his mother's brothers, and spoke with them, and with all the clan of the house of his mother's father, saying, Please speak in the hearing of all the masters of Shechem, which is better for you, that 70 men, all of the sons of Jerubbaal, rule over you, or that one man rule over you. And you shall remember that I am your own flesh and bone. And his mother's brothers spoke all these words concerning him in the hearing of all the masters of Shechem, and their heart inclined toward Abimelech, for they said, He is our brother. And they gave him 70 pieces of silver from the house of Baal-berith, with which Abimelech hired worthless and reckless men, and they followed him. And he went to his father's house at Ophrah, and killed his brothers, the 70 sons of Jerubbaal, on one stone. But Jotham, the youngest son of Jerubbaal, was left, because he hid himself. And all the masters of Shechem gathered together, and all of Beth Millo, and they went and made Abimelech sovereign beside the terebinth tree at the post that was in Shechem. And they informed Jotham, and he went and stood on top of Mount Gerizim, and lifted his voice and cried out, and said to them, Hear me, you masters of Shechem, and let Elohim hear you. The trees went forth to anoint a sovereign over them, and they said to the olive tree, Reign over us. And the olive tree said to them, Shall I leave my oil with which they esteem mighty ones and men, and go sway over trees? And the tree said to the fig tree, Come, reign over us. And the fig tree said to them, Shall I leave my sweetness and my good fruit, and go sway over trees? And then the tree said to the vine, Come, reign over us. And the vine said to them, Shall I leave my new wine, which rejoices mighty ones and men, and go to sway over trees? Then all the trees said to the bramble, Come, reign over us. And the bramble said to the trees, If in truth you anoint me as a sovereign over you, come, take shelter in my shade. But if not, let fire come out of the bramble and devour the cedars of Lebanon. And now, if you have acted in truth and integrity in setting up Abimelech to reign, and if you have acted well with Jerubbaal and his house, and have done to him as his hands did to you, for my father fought for you and risked his life and delivered you out of the hand of Midian, but you have risen up against my father's house today, and killed his 70 sons on one stone, and set up Abimelech, the son of his female servant, to reign over the masters of Shechem, because he is your brother. If then you have acted in truth and integrity with Jerubbaal, and with his house this day, then rejoice in Abimelech, and let him also rejoice with you. But if not, let fire come out from Abimelech, and devour the masters of Shechem and Beth Millo, and let fire come out from the masters of Shechem and from Beth Millo, and devour Abimelech. Then Jotham ran away and fled, and he went to Beer and dwelt there, for the fear of Abimelech his brother. And Abimelech governed Israel 3 years. And Elohim sent an evil spirit between Abimelech and the masters of Shechem, and the masters of Shechem acted treacherously against Abimelech, in order that the violence done to the 70 sons of Jerubbaal might come, and their blood be laid on Abimelech their brother, who killed them, and on the masters of Shechem, who strengthened his hands to kill his brothers. And the masters of Shechem set men in an ambush against him on the tops of the mountains, and they robbed all who passed over by them along that way. And it was reported to Abimelech. And Gaal, son of Ebed, came with his brothers and passed over to Shechem, and the masters of Shechem put their trust in him, and went out into the fields, and gathered their vineyards, and trod out, and held a feast. And they went into the house of their mighty one, and ate and drank, and cursed Abimelech. And Gaal, son of Ebed, said, Who is Abimelech, and who is Shechem, that we should serve him? Is he not the son of Jerubbaal, and is not Zebul his officer? serve the man of Hamor, the father of Shechem. But why should we serve him? If only this people were under my hand, then I would remove Abimelech. And he said to Abimelech, increase your army and come out. And when Zebul, the governor of the city, heard the words of Gaal, son of Ebed, his displeasure burned. And he sent messengers to Abimelech by deceit, saying, see, Gaal, son of Ebed, and his brothers have come to Shechem. And see, they are besieging the city against you. And now, get up by night, you and the people who are with you, and lie in wait in the field. And it shall be, as soon as the sun is up in the morning, then rise early and rush upon the city. And see, when he and the people who are with him come out against you, you shall do to them as your hand finds to do. And Abimelech and all the people who were with him rose up by night, and laid in wait against Shechem in 4 companies. Now Gaal, son of Ebed, went out and stood in the entrance of the city gate, and Abimelech and the people who were with him arose from lying in wait. And when Gaal saw the people, he said to Zebul, see, people are coming down from the tops of the mountains. But Zebul said to him, you are seeing the shadows of the mountains like men. And Gaal spoke again and said, see, people are coming down from the high part of the land, and another company is coming from the diviner's terebinth tree. And Zebul said to him, now where is your mouth with which you said, who is Abimelech that we should serve him? Are not these the people whom you despise? I beg you, go out and fight them now. So Gaal went out, leading the masters of Shechem, and fought Abimelech. And Abimelech pursued him, and he fled from him, and many fell wounded, up to the entrance of the gate. And Abimelech stayed at Arumah, and Zebul drove out Gaal and his brothers, so that they would not dwell in Shechem. And it came to be the next day that the people went out into the field, and they informed Abimelech. And he took his people and divided them into 3 companies, and laid in wait in the field, and looked and saw the people coming out of the city. And he rose against them and struck them. And Abimelech and the company that was with him rushed forward and stood at the entrance of the gate of the city. And the other 2 companies rushed upon all who were in the fields and struck them. And Abimelech fought against the city all that day, and captured the city, and killed the people who were in it. And he broke down the city and sowed it with salt. And all the masters of the tower of Shechem had heard that, and entered the stronghold of the house of El-Berith. And it was reported to Abimelech that all the masters of the tower of Shechem were gathered together. So Abimelech went up to Mount Salmon, he and all the people who were with him. And Abimelech took an axe in his hand, and cut down a branch from the trees, and took it and laid it on his shoulder. Then he said to the people who were with him, what you have seen me do, hurry, do as I have done. And all the people likewise cut down each one his own branch, and followed Abimelech, and put them against the stronghold, and set the stronghold on fire above them, so that all the men of the tower of Shechem died, about 1,000 men and women. Abimelech then went to Thebets, and he encamped against Thebets, and captured it. However, there was a strong tower in the city, and all the men and women and all the masters of the city fled there, and shut themselves in, and went up to the top of the tower. And Abimelech came to the tower, and fought against it, and approached the door of the tower to burn it with fire. But a certain woman dropped an upper millstone on the head of Abimelech, and crushed his skull. He then immediately called the young man, his armor-bearer, and said to him, draw your sword and kill me, lest men say of me, a woman killed him. And his young man thrust him through, and he died. And when the men of Israel saw that Abimelech was dead, each one went to his own place. Thus did Elohim repay the evil of Abimelech, which he had done to his father, to kill his 70 brothers. And all the evil of the men of Shechem, Elohim turned back on their own heads, and the curse of Joram, son of Jerubbaal, came on them. Chapter 10. And after Abimelech there arose Tola, son of Puah, son of Dodo, a man of Issachar, to save Israel. And he dwelt in Shamir, in the mountains of Ephraim, and he ruled Israel 23 years. Then he died and was buried in Shamir. And after him arose Yair, a Gileadite, and he ruled Israel 22 years. And he had 30 sons who rode on 30 donkeys, and they had 30 towns, which were called Havoth Yair to this day, which are in the land of Gilead. And Yair died and was buried in Kamon. And the children of Israel again did evil in the eyes of Yahuwah, and served the Baals and Ashtoreths, and the mighty ones of Aram, and the mighty ones of Sidon, and the mighty ones of Moab, and the mighty ones of the children of Ammon, and the mighty ones of the Philistines, and forsook Yahuwah and did not serve him. Therefore the displeasure of Yahuwah burned against Israel, and he sold them into the hands of the Philistines, and into the hands of the children of Ammon. And they crushed and oppressed the children of Israel that year. For 18 years, all the children of Israel who were beyond the Jordan in the land of the Amorites and Gilead. And the children of Ammon passed over the Jordan to fight against Yehudah, and against Benjamin, and against the house of Ephraim, so that Israel had great distress. And the children of Israel cried out to Yahuwah, saying, We have sinned against you, because we have both forsaken our Elohim and served the Baals. So Yahuwah said to the children of Israel, Was it not from the Mitzrites, and from the Amorites, and from the children of Ammon, and from the Philistines that I saved you? And the Sidonians and Amalek and Maon oppressed you, and you cried out to me, and I saved you from their hand. But you have forsaken me, and served other mighty ones. Therefore I do not save you again. Go and cry out to the mighty ones which you have chosen. Let them save you in your time of distress. And the children of Israel said to Yahuwah, We have sinned. Do to us whatever is good in your eyes, only deliver us today, please. So they put away the foreign mighty ones from their midst, and served Yahuwah, and his being was grieved with the trouble of Israel. Then the children of Ammon were called together and encamped in Gilead, and the children of Israel gathered together and encamped in Mizpah. And the people, the heads of Gilead, said to each other, Let the man who is the first to fight against the children of Ammon be head over all the inhabitants of Gilead.